time and give those guys a lot of grief. But just about anywhere you go in the South, we love our college football, and almost to the point of ridiculousness. We're talking about the SEC Media Days, and one of the topics, of course, again, down there was 9 games. I mentioned it earlier in the show, so we might as well talk about it, Carter. Should the SEC go to 9 games?
Well, they should, and I'll tell you why. I know the SEC is a tough conference. We got a caller.
Hey guys, it's Sam. I've got an opinion on this whole pay for play situation. You guys are doing a great job so far, but I feel like my opinion is pretty unique when it comes to this.
Let's have it.
Now, when you're talking about top tier guys, the quarterbacks for Alabama, the quarterbacks for these major schools, you can make an argument. But for the most part, we're talking about second stringers, average players in college football whose career will end after college. Now, if we're going to be straight up front with this, a lot of these kids are from poor environments. They're from urban areas where they would have no shot in hell at going to these prestigious universities, especially mine, North Carolina, the great academic powerhouse it is. And I feel like too often it's the monetary value of the scholarship comes into play rather than the overall than you seeing how your future is going to be impacted. I mean, some of these degrees basically guarantee you $100,000 a year that these kids are getting. I mean, look at Stanford. If you could get a scholarship to play a game, just to play football, to go to the University of Stanford, you should not be asking for a dime. That's just my whole opinion on it.
Yeah, you certainly shouldn't be robbing people for tacos.
Yeah. And with the pay-for-play thing, I think that all expenses should be taken care of, but as far as compensation goes, you're getting compensated for the rest of your life with a degree from some of these great universities.
Well, you bring a good point to the table, Sam, and I guess my rebuttal to that would be not all of these guys are going to graduate and get a degree. In fact, most of the high-tier players are not. They're going to leave as soon as, the NFL says they're ready. And I get it. I understand that's a personal choice. They can choose to go on and take the money, or they can choose to get their degree before they take the money. I get that. That's why this is another one of those topics where there's so many arguments for both sides that almost no matter what they do, either side can make an argument that sounds good.
Yeah. Another thing you got to look at, though, is a lot of times people will bash the NCAA. They're not the ones that require the 3 years. It's not their decision. The NFL basically is putting an age limit on it, and college football basically has a monopoly right now. Is the only place to go to transition into the NFL. So I think really the discussion needs to start on the NFL's end. If they have such a problem with this, they should lower their age restrictions or do something. But college football is giving these kids enough, especially the average players who are not going to be going to the NFL.
Well, that's true. I get sad when I hear these awful stories about these poor kids not having enough to eat, and they're sitting up at 1 o'clock in the morning playing their PS3 system and starving to death. I personally think that's a load of crap. I'm
saying give them a meal, the best meal plan they can have at the school, and I understand still that's not enough for some of these kids, but at some point, there's got to be we're giving you a lifetime of knowledge here that you're going to be able to use whether football works out or not.
There is if I'm not mistaken, I think these kids are given a small stipend. It's not very much. I want to say I heard Spurrier talking about this somewhere a few weeks ago, and so don't quote me on that. I'm going to look that up here later on when we're done with the show, because I'm interested myself now that we've talked about it. Sam, is there anything else you wanted to bring to the table tonight, or was that it? Floor is yours.
I'd also like to know what are you guys' favorite moments as a volunteer fan? My personal favorite volunteer moment would be when old Derek Dooley took him into Nashville, Tennessee to face the North Carolina Tar Heels.
We're having audio problems here. Thanks for the call, Sam.
All right, take it easy.
Take care, Sam. Yeah, it's funny that he mentioned that because we are actually going to talk about that if we have time later on. We're moving right along here. We're already well past halfway into the show. Good call from Sam, Carter.
Oh, yeah. Sam, we appreciate the call, and thanks for giving us a listen, man.
Well, we never finished the conversation about the 9-game schedule because we kind of slid off subject there into the pay-for-play. I'm going to let you go ahead and finish what you were saying earlier about why you think we should go to 9 games in the SEC.
Well, reason being, I think we have to because a lot of teams are tired of not being able to play each other. I'm talking about from the East and the West. As we know, there are Tennessee and Alabama, cross-divisional rivalry, just like Auburn and Georgia. They play each other every year. And I think in order for us to keep playing that, having those rivalries every year, we've got to add another conference game. Or we're going to lose. It's plain and simple. And so going to 9 games, we'll keep that cross-divisional rivalries going, and we'll get to play another team from the West.
Well, that's very true. You're going to have some people, Carter, like myself, though, that will say, look, we the 2 teams that make the championship game already play 9 games, 9 conference games. And I know a friend of ours, he's one of the biggest proponents of the SEC going to 9 games, mainly because he hates our conference, and he's one of those guys that, that thinks that the SEC is unfairly put up on a pedestal. Well, fairly or not, I understand his point for the most part. I understand your point. A lot of these SEC teams' argument is going to be that they schedule tough non-conference games already. And, that's where other people are going to say, yeah, but you also play the Chattanoogas and the directional schools and blah, blah, blah. Well, all these teams, all these big teams, and I'm not just talking about the SEC. I'm talking about the ACC, the Big Ten, the Pac-50 or whatever they are this week, and the Big 12, 10-8, whatever they are. They all do the same thing. Everyone schedules these cupcake games every year. You have to. So as far as the SEC going to 9 games, again, I know I'm kind of repeating myself here, but I'm on the fence. If we did go to 9 games, I'd be okay with it. If we stayed at 8, I'd be okay with it. Either way is fine with me.
Same here.
Well, we've talked about the SEC Media Days. We've talked about a little bit about scheduling. We've covered quite a few topics, actually. The one thing we didn't talk about as it pertains to the SEC Media Days, their predictions, the media's predictions on who's going to win this highfalutin conference, and the all-SEC teams. I want to start, and then I'm going to throw it to you, Carter. 2 Tennessee Volunteers on the all-SEC team, that being Marquez North, third-team offense, and, of course, the Beast, A.J. Johnson, first-team defense. Your thoughts, and who did they say is going to win the SEC this year?
Well, on the all-conference team, I think A.J. Johnson, very well deserving. A lot of people have him as a preseason first-team All-American, but he's got to go out there and show it this year. He's got to have the same kind of year he's been having, leading the conference in tackles. Is Marquez North, if one of those quarterbacks step up and play, he'll be an All-American himself as well. But as far as the SEC goes, of course, I think we all know that Alabama's the favorite in the West and South Carolina favored in the East. They picked Tennessee to finish 5th in the East. I think we'll get a little bit better than that, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, Alabama and South Carolina, that'd be a good matchup. Nick Saban hasn't had a lot of luck with beating the old ball coach.
Yeah, those are 2 teams that are, they're fairly complimentary of each other as far as number of wins the last several seasons. South Carolina has kind of quietly, in my opinion, just gone out there and won 11 games each year for the last 3 years. And I say quietly because basically they've done nothing with it. You know, they lost a huge game up here in Knoxville last year, a game that most people say they should have won going into the game. Nobody gave us credit going into that game as to having any chance, which that's normal. That's par for the course. They have this tendency of losing games that they should not lose every year. One game every year. Alabama, the unknown commodity this year, Coker. What's the Coker kid going to do? Me personally, I think they could just line up, play smash mouth football, and run it for 200 or 300 yards minimum a game and beat most of the teams on their schedule that way. But there's going to come a time somewhere this year where they're going to have some plays from the quarterback position. Sims, I'm not a Alabama follower, so I don't know why he's not getting any love, but I guess when you've got the second coming of whoever, Peyton Manning, coming to Tuscaloosa, you got to give him the props. We're getting a terrible thunderstorm right here right now, so I don't know if it's affecting what you guys are hearing or not. Just wanted to throw that out there. Again, if you want to give us a call, thanks to the callers earlier, toll free 855-403-9071 or locally 865-643-8832. Call in, talk about whatever you want, whatever you don't want. We don't care. We just want to talk sports. We want to talk Tennessee football. We just basically want to flap our jaws here for the next little while. It's what we do. Carter, Sam mentioned favorite Vol moments. Turning it over to you, my man. What I want from you is the favorite game you've ever been to in person, and then your favorite game watched on TV.
All right, well, I'll go with the watch TV first. There's so many, but the one I'd have to say would be the 1998 Florida game. I didn't get to go. I was only 8, but I do remember watching it, and at the time, I had never, since I'd been a fan, never seen Tennessee beat Florida. I was like, well, what's this? What's that like? And getting to watch that and witness that, even as an 8-year-old, was just huge. And I may have cried a tear of joy. I can't remember, but it was a huge win for us and went on to win the national title. And as far as my favorite game, seeing live, I would have to go with 2003, Tennessee, Alabama, 5 overtimes. We were a much better team that year than Alabama, but anytime you play Alabama, it's a big game, no matter what their record is or who their coach is. But I just remember felt like the longest game I've ever seen, and I was 13, and we finally won in the 5th overtime. But a lot of people probably remember Casey Clausen. We had to tie the game first, and we had to complete a 4th and 19. And he hit James Banks for the first down. And anyway, we went to the next overtime and scored, got the 2, and they couldn't score, and we won the game.
Yeah, that was a fantastic game. That is, if I'm not mistaken, the only game in my adult life I've ever had to work while it was going on. And it was one of the best games, like you said, to watch on TV. And unfortunately, at the time, way back then, I was delivering pizzas, and I stayed out on that road as long as I could watching people's TVs when I would take their food to the door. Anyway, my personal favorite game, and there's been so many of them in the 30-plus years, it's really kind of hard to narrow TV games down to one, but I think the Miracle in South Bend, just an incredible comeback. All Tennessee fans, there's no need for me to rehash that game. We all know what happened. Notre Dame was stomping a mud hole in us in the first half. They were lined up to kick a field goal to go up, I believe, 34-7 at the time. Someone made an ass of themselves and blocked the kick, and it was returned for a touchdown, and the rest, as they say, is history. And fittingly, that game came down to a field goal at the end, too, which Notre Dame missed. So That's probably one of my all-time favorite TV games. Personal games, same thing.